Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to another guide. Today we are covering top lane Gnar.
Gnar, gada!
When in Mega Gnar, he is a very solid team fighter, and when in Mini Gnar, he is a great kiter. He has tons and tons of CC from his slows and his stuns, and he has a very high impact ultimate, which can stun an entire team. When he's in his Mini Gnar form, he's able to farm very safely with his boomerang toss, and he does have an easy, reliable escape from his E ability, Hop. When he turns into Mega Gnar, he then becomes a very tanky champion as he gets base health, base armor, and base magic resistance. Now although he's really tanky in this form, he is rather squishy in Mini Gnar form. Gnar is a champion who goes Frozen Mallet and Black Cleaver, and although that does give you a nice health pool, you have no tanky stats at all besides that health, so you are rather squishy. Your rage bar can then become very hard to control, definitely for a new Gnar player. You have to time it correctly when you are engaging into teamfights so you can go into Mega Gnar and get off that devastating stun. You are then a champion with tons and tons of skill shots, and obviously, those can be dodged. This, combined with the fact that you do have two forms you have to learn how to use, and you do have a rage bar that is hard to control, he is a hard champion to master. Although when he is mastered, he is a very strong champion, and there's a reason he's very popular in the current Worlds tournament. For our Masteries, we go 18 Ferocity and 12 Resolve, grabbing Fervor of Battle as our Keystone Mastery. When you are in Mini Gnar form, you do get passive attack speed, and obviously that works really well with Fervor of Battle. Combining these two things together make you a big time top lane bully against the majority of champions. Other than that, we do focus on getting as much damage as possible so we can be that top lane bully, but other than that, we increase our tankiness by just a little bit. For our runes, we go attack damage reds, armor yellows, magic resist blues, and attack speed quints. This is my favorite setup since he kinda acts like an AD carry when in Mini Gnar form, but you can also take attack damage quints instead since he does have passive attack speed. Getting the attack speed quints though in that early game will help you get off that hyper's damage a little bit easier. For my summoners, I like to stick with teleport and flash. Although Gnar does have great built-in escapes, flash will still save you in all sorts of different situations. It is then also fantastic for engaging if you do need an angle on a bunch of targets to knock them into a wall when you are in Mega Gnar with your ultimate. Teleport is then great for getting back to lane and ganking. Gnar has extremely potent ganks, and if he times his Mega Gnar right, he can pull off devastating ganks and destroy an entire team if he can knock the enemies into walls for a super strong stun. So let's look at your passive, Rage Gene. When you are in Mini Gnar form, you will generate Fury over 3 seconds upon dealing or receiving damage, as well as every time you land a basic attack or boomerang throw, which is quadrupled against enemy champions. Your Fury then decays if you have not dealt or received damage in the last 13 seconds. When you reach 100 Fury, after 5 seconds or using an ability, you transform into Mega Gnar for 15 seconds, and of course you get new abilities. After 15 seconds, you revert back to Mini Gnar, you retain the same health percentage, and become tired out for 15 seconds, during which you cannot gain Fury. So managing this is one of the most important parts of Gnar. When a teamfight is about to happen, you want to stay at a rather high amount of Fury, but you don't want to go over the edge and go into Mega Gnar before the fight actually breaks out. This means for that short duration, you cannot do damage or receive any either. But when you are ready to teamfight, make sure you go into Mega Gnar, hop in, and pull off that devastating ultimate. When you are in your different Gnar forms, you do actually get bonuses as well. When you're in Mini Gnar, you gain between 10 and 30 based on level base movement speed, and between 5.5 and 99 based on level percentage bonus attack speed, and then finally between a 225 and 325 based on level yet again attack range for a total of between 400 and 500 based on level, range, and is a ranged champion. For Mega Gnar, we instead get tankiness. We get between 70 and 801 based on level health, and between 3.5 and 38 based on level, base armor, and magic resistance. We then get between 4 and 47 based on level base health regeneration, and between 6 and 49 based on level base attack damage, and is a melee champion with 175 range. Man, it was really stupid to go through all those numbers, but basically what you need to know is in Gnar form, you get a bunch more damage and movement speed so you can actually kite. Then in Mega Gnar, you get a ton of tanky stats, and that's great because you will be jumping into the middle of team fights so you can get that stun on a lot of high kill priority targets. For Mini Gnar's Q, we have Boomerang Throw. When you activate it, you throw your boomerang forward in a line and deal physical damage to all enemies hit and slow them for 2 seconds. Enemies beyond the first take only half damage, and each enemy can only be damaged once. This does, however, have a really high AD ratio of 115% AD. If you then catch this boomerang, the cooldown is reduced by between 45 and 60% based on the rank of the ability, which is a big part of using it properly. When you are harassing or clearing minion waves, you want to make sure you are in that fixed direction it will travel back in, so you can pick it up and have that reduced cooldown. This is rather important because it will directly influence how much wave clear and harass you can put out. Now let's look at Mega Gnar's form of Q, Boulder Toss. Basically, you throw a boulder that stops when it hits an enemy and deals physical damage and slows nearby enemies. This physical damage has a slightly better ratio of 120% AD. Just like the boomerang, if you do pick up the boulder, its cooldown is reduced by 60%. So this one here acts a lot like your boomerang, just in Mega Gnar form. The only difference is it stops when it hits an enemy, and then you have to go and pick it up. It obviously doesn't return. But other than that, if you are in lane phase, you can throw this out to deal a nice chunk of damage on the enemy opponent, and of course you can hop onto them after, and go up for more damage. So now here is your main way of harassing, your W, Hyper. This of course is in Mini Gnar form. Passively, your basic attacks and damaging abilities apply marks to enemy units and stack up to 3 times. The third mark will then get consumed and deal bonus magic damage to them, and also gives Gnar between 30 and 75% bonus movement speed that decays over 3 seconds. The magic damage here is nice as it is between a 10 and 50 base, but is based on target's maximum health at up to 14%. It then also has a 100% AP ratio, which is rather high, but we are not going for an AP build as Gnar. So since this also works off of basic abilities, you can go for an auto attack, then land your boomerang and auto attack once more to get off those 3 and get off this damage. This is just a really nice way of doing a bunch of extra damage in that top lane, as it is based off of maximum health, and top lane is where most tanky champions will end up. Now let's look at Mega Gnar's W, Wallop. You stand on your back legs before slamming his fists into the ground, dealing physical damage and stunning enemies in a large area in front of him for 1.25 seconds, and it has a physical damage of between 25 and 105 base, plus 100% AD. So of course this is a fantastic ability, as it can stun an entire team if they are close enough together for 1.25 seconds. Generally, you're going to want to follow this after you use your ultimate to push an entire team into a wall, stunning them all. You can chain both of these stuns together, which is extremely devastating. Now, Mini Gnar's E, Hop. Gnar leaps to the target location, gaining bonus attack speed for 3 seconds, and that is up to 60%. If you land on any unit, you will then bounce off them to jump to the same distance again, and if they are an enemy, he will also damage them and slow them by 80% for half a second. This ability is yet again based off of maximum health at 6%. So this ability here is obviously your main way of engaging or escaping. You'll only want to use it to go forward if you know you can land a kill, or of course you are about to go into Mega Gnar and you want to engage. Other than that, it is great to use after the enemy champion uses their gap closer, so you can jump away and start damaging them again. Mega Gnar's E is somewhat similar, and it's called Crunch. You also leap to the target location and you apply Hop's physical damage and slow all nearby enemies upon impact. At 100 Fury, Crunch instead turns into Hop and Crunch, which keeps Hop's bounce, but also applies Crunch's area of effect around both areas, though enemies can only be damaged once. So in short, this is basically just like your Hop, just in Mega Gnar form. The difference is Crunch's area of effect. But let's finally finish off these abilities by looking at her ultimate, which is simply called Gnar, except it's in capitals with an exclamation mark. Passively, in Mini Gnar, Hyper's bonus movement speed and boomerang throws on catch cooldown reduction are increased. When you activate this in Mega Gnar, Gnar knocks all nearby enemies in the target direction, dealing physical damage and slowing them by 45% for a short duration. This has a high base between 200 and 400, but a low ratio at between 20 AD and 50 AP. If, however, enemies hit terrain, they take 50% increased damage and instead are stunned for the same duration, which is up to 1.75 seconds. So this is why Gnar can be such a devastating team fighter, like I've talked about a couple times during this guide. You'll want to use your Hop and Crunch to get into a team and then follow up with this to knock them into a wall. This will hopefully stun a lot of targets, and then you can use Gnar's W to stun them yet again. If timed correctly and on enough targets with proper follow-up, this can destroy an entire frigging team. The main problem people are going to have when they are learning Gnar is having the proper amount of rage, so you will go into Mega Gnar form at the right time and be able to pull it off. Wait till you're really high, and when you're ready to engage, hit 100 and go in for that devastating combo. For our skill order, we of course take our ultimate at 6, 11, and 16. We then focus on maxing our boomerang as it is really nice poke, and then move into our W for its increased poke damage as well. As E is primarily used as an escape or an engage, we of course max it last, we just make sure we get one early point in level 3, other than that, save it for the end. Our first combo is one I've already talked about, and it's incredibly easy to pull off. Auto attack an enemy to apply the first mark, then land your boomerang throw to apply the second, and auto attack again. This is a quick way to get off your W, Hyper's passive, and get off a nice chunk of damage. For our all-in combo on a single target, start by using either your hop or crunch to get onto the enemy right before transforming. You'll then want to stun them with your wallop, and then move into a position so you can use your ultimate to stun them against a wall. At this point, you can then hit the target with your boulder toss and get an easy kill. If you are doing this in a team fight, however, you'll want to try to knock the majority of the enemy team into a wall. Generally, I like to close the gap with a hop, but then flash into a better angle and use that Gnar to hit them all against the wall. Then I follow up with a wallop. I kinda switch number 3 and 2 when I am dealing with a team. In the early game, you'll want to harass your opponent as much as possible, but make sure you're not missing CS. Spam and catch your boomerang toss and use your hyper passive to harass your enemy. Remember that mini Gnar is rather squishy, so play safe and don't waste your hop. Do not use it to go forward unless you're confident that you can get that kill. When you do have Mega Gnar, generally you're going to be able to engage on that enemy champion, but there still is some really hard matchups, and even in Mega Gnar, you may not win them. The hard matchups will be covered a little bit later in the guide. In the mid game, try to get down the tower as soon as you can and look to roam and help your team. Gnar is a great team fighter, and your goal is to get into the middle with your hop and crunch, and when in Mega Gnar, knock them into a wall with your Gnar. Keep in mind that you can use flash to get into a better position, so you can stun as many enemies as possible. If you do have teleport available, you'll usually end up split pushing a side lane and put a lot of pressure on the enemy team. If somebody comes to kill you, you do have a very solid escape, and usually you'll be able to get away perfectly fine, especially if you do have deep wards. Late game is going to be pretty damn similar. If you have teleport, you're going to want to still be split pushing those side lanes to force the enemy to rotate. If they do over-rotate, your team can go for an easy objective. Your role in team fights is going to be the same. Get into the middle when you're about to pop into Mega Gnar, and then stun as many people as possible with that Gnar and your W. Then, if your team does have the advantage, try forcing fights at Dragon and Baron by clearing out vision with sweepers and vision wards. For our first hard matchup, we have Yasuo. We're a champion with a ton of different skill shots, and Yasuo is one of the best at dodging them. It's best to trade with him when we are in Mega Gnar form, otherwise you'll just want to keep his shield down and make sure you avoid his tornadoes with your hop. Jarvan vs Gnar is then a matchup that can go both ways. If he's able to land his EQ combo, he's going to easily win trades. If, however, you are able to dodge it, it can be a pretty easy matchup because he's very kiteable without it, and you can also use your hop or crunch to get out of Cataclysm. Wukong is then one of the best champions at trading, and can cause Gnar some major issues. Try and poke him down as much as you can with your W and Q, and hop when he wants to jump on you. Try and bait out his decoy, and when it is used, you can then go for an all-in. So here are some other hard matchups. First, we have Irelia, and she's somewhat hard because she does have a lot of sustain to counter your poke, and has a stun and gap closer. Make sure you're saving your hop for when she blade surges to you, and play carefully and farm with your boomerang throw. Pantheon is then pure cancer, and counters 90% of the top laners out there. He will be tossing spears all day long after he's level 3, and when you're at about 30 to 40% of your HP, he's gonna all-in you. Get armor as fast as you can and farm safely with your boomerang throw. Then there is Kennen, who is a very popular pick right now, and is more of a skill matchup. He is, however, rather hard because of his stun and high mobility. Try your best to keep him from roaming around the map because his Maelstrom can absolutely destroy your team in a roam. Kennen, however, has no sustain, so try your best to chunk him with your boomerang throw and your W, and go for trades when he does use his abilities to farm. Now let's look at that item build, which starts with a Doran's Blade, Health Potion, and Warding Totem. If you are in a hard matchup, you could always go for that Doran's Shield as well. For our core build, we want to get a Frozen Mallet, then a Black Cleaver, and a Randuin's. If, however, we are against AP, we'll want that Hex Drinker before those items. The Frozen Mallet gives you a little bit of tankiness and the ability to kite for days. The Black Cleaver is then fantastic because we do get passive attack speed, and getting those stacks on the Black Cleaver are insanely easy on a champion. For our boots, we of course have Merc Treads if we're against high AP and CC, or we have the Ninja Tabbies against armor, and Boots of Swiftness if we want full-on mobility. As for armor options, we have the Sunfire Cape for a nice little additional burn, we have the Dead Man's Plate for added mobility, and the Thorn Mail if we're against a full AD team and we want to return some damage. For our magic resist items, we have the Banshee's Veil, as this will make engaging a lot easier as you can block a CC. For full-on magic resist and cooldown reduction, we have the Spirit Visage, and of course we can also finish that Hex Drinker if we did have to grab one into a Maw. Then of course we have the best of both worlds, the Guardian Angel, which is also fantastic for coming back to life. For a full build in a normal game when there's a lot of AD and AP, we take our core, then add a Banshee's Veil so engaging is a lot easier, and of course the Guardian Angel in that super late game. For full build number 2, we did have to grab that Hex Drinker because we were against high AP and against an AP laner, so we took that core, upgraded that Hex Drinker into a Maw, and added a Spirit Visage. You are a champion who itemizes rather well, just get that Frozen Mallet and Black Cleaver, and then go for full tank. But that covers everything I've got on top lane Gnar. If you guys did like the guide, make sure you thumb it up, and if you really enjoyed it, you can always subscribe as we have content coming out daily. You can also view a nice list of our guides on our website, egamingtv.com, or follow us on Twitter where we do our skin giveaways at egaming_TV. Other than that, thank you guys a ton for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next champion guide. Peace!
Maybe I've been slipping back, heading south, car sick on a Tuesday, missing cash, blacking out, heartless in a few ways, shit for luck, elbow shredded, I held things steady like too late, please calm the fuck down, I'll do whatever you say, I get it, I'm living too hard and it's time that I stop it, for rising on up and then tumbling down, well it's part of the process.